What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Friday, June 30th edition of the MLB Sims video. I'm your host, Adam Scherer. You can follow me on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. We have 12 MLB games on the main slate tonight, and we're going to use the Sims tool to take an early look at the best ways to play it on DraftKings, as we usually do. So we're going to walk through some of the best simmed ROI lineups, look at the five-man stack exposures that we're getting to, look at some of the pitcher exposures we're getting to, and we can sort of see how this slate is breaking down. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed to the Stokastic YouTube channel and hit the thumbs up button below the video. If you're watching on Twitter, hit the like button. It helps us out quite a bit. And also, if you're watching this video and you're thinking that you want to add this to your game as a DFS player, there will be a link below the YouTube video and also below this video on Twitter. So you can sign up $60 a week or $180 a month, whichever you prefer, whether you want to try it out for a week or just dive into your full month. You can do so. I'm also using my own projections today. That's not something that I had done in any of these videos previously, but wanted to talk about how you can do it if it's something that you're interested in doing. You can simply upload your CSV of lineups here. So I made my 2000 lineups in Fantasy Cruncher like usual, uploaded them here. And then down here, there's a checkbox for use custom projections. If you're using your own, all you have to do is check it, download the template. It's going to have player names, projection column, ownership column. You upload your projections, you put that file back in here, and then you simulate it like you normally would. It's that easy. So that is something that, if you've been watching this video and thinking that you didn't know how to do it with your own, or you didn't know you could do it with your own, you can. So I went ahead and did that today, and we can take a look at it, starting with the top lineups here. We have a 5-man Atlanta stack, 2-man Milwaukee stack coming in as the top simulated lineup. Luis Medina and Ronel Blanco as the two pitchers. These guys are both not very good. Medina in particular is bad. Blanco he's decent, but he has a tough matchup against Texas. But this is a pretty ugly pitching slate. So in this particular lineup, you're paying down for both of your pitchers. You're just kind of hoping that they somehow survive. But you're getting to a very high upside Atlanta stack. Sean Murphy, Matt Olson, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna, and Austin Riley. So you're getting to legitimate good Braves here. You're getting to Bryce Turang and Joey Weimer, so a couple more value pieces coming from the Brewers, and then a Michael A. Taylor one-off, which I could do without, but he's cheap, so you'll take it. He is in a decent matchup against Dean Kramer in Baltimore. The Braves in a very high upside spot against Brian Hoeing with about a 5.8 implied run total. Next, we have a 5-man Detroit stack, 2-man Atlanta. So here we're full stacking the most popular team on the slate. The Detroit Tigers are in Coors Field. They're cheap. Implied run total between 5 and 6. So Haas, Torkelson, Baez, Vierling, Ibanez, again, a good part of the Tigers order. Ozzie Albies and Austin Riley, both from the Braves, and then a one-off with Kyle Tucker. Obviously, you're never going to be upset about getting to Tucker. He's always a very high upside outfield play. Not a good matchup against John Gray, but he's not going to be popular, and he does still have a very high ceiling. And then as far as pitching goes, again, nothing you're going to be overly confident in, but Carlos Carrasco, only $6,000, taking on the Giants. So 4.7 implied run total for the Giants. There are strikeouts in that lineup, though. Carrasco has certainly struggled this year, but he's only 6K. And then Griffin Canning in a favorable park for hitters in a dangerous matchup against the Diamondbacks, but probably no Corbin Carroll today for Arizona is going to make Canning look better at $8,300. So again, two pitchers that are fine in the context of this slate. 5-man Milwaukee stack, 2-man Atlanta. So again, Atlanta showing up here. Carrasco again, Dean Kramer as the other pitcher. He is in Baltimore. He's projected for 15 to 20% ownership, which is basically just a function of the slate that we don't have a lot of good pitching, but he is in a good strikeout matchup against Minnesota. We're getting the 5-man Milwaukee stack going up against Osvaldo Bido in Pittsburgh. Not a good hitter's park, but a pitcher who probably isn't very good at the major league level. There are some question marks about how much he's improved over the years, but you're getting a solid 5-man Milwaukee stack. You're running it back with Riley and Acuna as the mini stack, and then a Whit Merrifield one-off from Toronto. No issues with that. Another Milwaukee stack here. Here you get a full Toronto stack again with Atlanta. Here we have a Colorado stack, 5 Colorado Rockies, 2 Los Angeles Dodgers. So a lot of different teams showing up here in terms of top lineups. The theme seems to be that we don't mind taking some risks on pitching, which makes sense just because there's not a lot of safety at pitching, regardless of where you go today. Now, to look at the exposures in these top 150 lineups, first starting with the stack exposures, we have the Tigers at the top. That's not surprising. They're very inexpensive. In the top stacks tool right now, we have them first in top stack percentage at 11%. We have them second in top value percentage at 12.2%. They have the highest stack score by a wide margin. So makes sense that they are showing up the most often. And as we saw in those individual lineups, we are getting to some low owned pitching that's going to help balance out that ownership as well. Milwaukee at 15%, Dodgers at 14, Yankees at 11. The other three offenses that are getting at least 11% or at least 10% rather, five-man stack exposure. In terms of stack score, we have the Yankees second, we have the Dodgers fifth, we have the Brewers sixth. Again, stack score is the metric in our top stacks tool that accounts for top stack percentage and top value percentage. So we're getting to stacks that grade out well for us. Now, looking at the individual player exposures, starting with the pitchers, I expect this to be probably the most uncomfortable part of what we see, just because there's not a lot of pitching you're going to like getting to. And that's the case here. Carlos Carrasco coming in at 37%. Right now, he's only projected for 5.5% ownership. So this just shows up as a spot where if Carrasco is really going to be this low owned at 6K in a good pitcher's park on a slate where paying up for pitching doesn't really make you feel that much better, it doesn't make your lineups project that much better, we're going to just take the contrarian play on Carrasco a lot. Then we get a couple more popular pitchers with Griffin Canning and John Gray. No problems getting into either of those guys, getting a little bit over the field on both. Then we get back to pretty questionable pitching with 20% Luis Medina. He's facing a White Sox team in a good pitcher's park. The White Sox have been below average this year. Medina's also very bad, but he's only $5,800. Blanco $6,800 against Texas. Very dangerous spot, but again, just not getting any ownership. And there is merit to that on a slate like this. Then we get back to some actual good pitching. Freddie Peralta against the Pirates, a little bit below the field, but still getting 13%. Shane McClanahan around half the field facing the Mariners. Obviously a very good pitcher, good pitcher's park, good strikeout matchup, but he is $11,000. So the more of him you get, the less of the Atlanta bats, the less of those Dodgers bats that you can get to. So right now, at least based on ownership and everything, we are prioritizing those expensive bats. Dean Kramer and Pablo Lopez facing off in Camden Yards, coming in a little under the field on them, nothing too crazy. So you can see how the pitching exposures go hand in hand with the stack exposures. The more exposures you have to the highest owned stacks, the more likely it is that you're going to have some random low owned pitchers like Carrasco, Medina, Blanco showing up to help balance that out. Now, looking at overall hitter exposures, we have Matt Vierling at the top at 25%. Not surprising there. Likely to be leading off for the Rockies against Austin, or for the Tigers rather, against Austin Gomber in Coors Field. Freddie Freeman, Ronald Acuna, obviously never upset about getting to those guys. Christian Yelich against Vito in Pittsburgh. Then we're back to Detroit with Baez. Back to the Dodgers with Mets, Contreras, Ibanez. A lot of Tigers, a lot of Braves, a lot of Milwaukee showing up here at the top. And 25% is the high mark for hitters right now. This does strike me as a slate where I would expect that sort of made up 30% rule to probably be in effect. There's no spots where you don't have any team with a 7.5 implied run total like we were getting with the Dodgers. You have 12 games on the slate, so it's not like it's a 4 or 5 gamer. So I do expect my hitter exposures to sort of naturally cap themselves in the 25 to 30% range, and that's what we're seeing here as well. From a stack ROI standpoint, looking at 5-man stacks, the Yankees, the Tigers, the Diamondbacks coming in as your best 3, all a little bit negative here, but relative to everything else, looking good. Again, that doesn't mean that they are your best overall stacks necessarily, but they are winning pretty frequently and at low in the Yankees or in the Diamondbacks case at low ownership. Yankees and Tigers obviously are more popular, but it's telling you that they're not wildly over-owned or anything like that. So that's all we have for right now. I'll have an article out later with a slate overview. We'll be back for the deeper dive and live before lock leading up to lock. But this was an early look at the DraftKings slate using the Sims tool. Thanks for checking it out. Hope you enjoyed the video and enjoy your weekend.